Many civilizations through the years have used the rising of certain stars to mark important seasonal events. The dog star Sirius, especially significant in ancient Egypt, was known because its rising terrifyingly coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile. Hi everyone, Vega here, and in today's Christmas special video, we're going to look at some of the interesting celestial events that relate to this special time of year. So let's get to it. Some of you may already know that quite strangely for us in the Northern Hemisphere, the Earth is actually closer to the Sun at Christmas than it is during the summer. This paradox has a curious effect on weather on our planet, and indeed makes weather much more extreme in the Southern Hemisphere than in the North. Of course, we know that each hemisphere experiences winter or summer depending on the way the Earth is tilted. It's summer when it's tilted towards the Sun, and winter when it's tilted away. But the distance between us and the Sun is not always equal, and indeed our orbit is not a perfect circle, and this means that the Southern Hemisphere tends to experience more extreme weather patterns because it's closer to the Sun in its summer months of December, January and February, and also tilted towards the Sun, and vice versa in winter. It's a sort of double whammy, so to speak. However, those aren't the only factors affecting weather here on our blue planet, of course. And the Southern Hemisphere has a much larger proportion of ocean, which does moderate temperatures, but it also contributes to more intense cyclones and stronger storms. It's a well-known fact that the peculiar geography between the southern tip of South America and the Antarctic Peninsula, coupled with this vast amount of ocean, mean that the Drake Strait contains some of the most treacherous seas of all. The Southern Hemisphere does tend to experience milder winters because of the oceans, but it can have hotter summers, particularly in places like Australia and South Africa, where there is a large landmass. Apart from Antarctica, of course, where inland is the coldest part of the planet by some degree. I often find this Antipodes map interesting to look at, where we can see the northern and southern hemispheres superimposed on top of each other. It's quite curious seeing how large swathes of Greenland and the northern tip of Siberia would be unsurprisingly inside Antarctica, but also the places like France and Great Britain are actually more southerly in inverted commas than, for example, New Zealand, or indeed that the Antarctic Peninsula lies further north, again in inverted commas, than inhabited parts of Scandinavia, for example. During the Christmas sky, probably my favourite constellation, Orion, is at its brightest and dominates the Christmas sky here in the north. Its distinct belt of 3 stars and the brilliant stars of Betelgeuse and Rigel make it very easy to spot, and we've also talked before here on Vega Astro about the curious winter hexagon that surrounds Orion, and if we include Betelgeuse sandwiched in the middle, it actually contains an incredible 7 of the 17 brightest stars in the sky, all within a few arc minutes of each other. This year at Christmas, or should I say slightly before, on December 7th, the planet Jupiter reached opposition. This means when the Sun, Earth and Jupiter are all aligned in the sky, which makes Jupiter the brightest object in the night sky, and indeed even now in mid to the late December, the planet remains incredibly bright and indeed perfect for observing through a telescope. Of course, at the time of the release of this video, last night, December 21st, marked the December solstice, which is the shortest day and longest night in the Northern Hemisphere, and obviously it's a time of significant seasonal change, celebrated across various cultures. Having lived in England and Spain, it's quite noticeable just how much more light we get in a more southerly latitude. Living in northern England, it was pretty normal to be dark by 4 PM at this time of the year, whereas it's more like 6 PM here in Spain, although we're on a different time zone, which does contribute something towards that. If you're up early on Christmas morning, December the 25th, you may, before all the excitement begins, want to catch Mercury at its greatest westerny elongation. This means that the planet appears far enough away from the Sun that it rises just beforehand, making it an excellent time to spot the pretty elusive planet in the pre-dawn sky. There are also quite a few interesting occultations happening this Christmas month too. For example, the Moon passed in front of Saturn on December the 8th, and then passed in front of Mars on December the 18th. You may wish to take a look at the Moon again on the 24th, because when you see it, it will actually be occulting the star of Alpha Virginis or Spica on the 24th of December, and then in more southerly latitudes, the red supergiant star of Alpha Tauri or Antares on the 28th of December. Christmas is also a great time to observe famous winter constellations like Orion, Taurus and Gemini, and we know that their bright stars create spectacular patterns in the sky. Gemini in particular is interesting, so perhaps we can take a look at these notable double stars at Christmas. The star of Castor, or Alpha Geminorum, is a complex sextuple star in Gemini, whereas if you're lucky enough to live in a place with low light pollution, Albireo, or Beta Cygni, is known for its striking colour contrast in Cygnus and its 3-star system. Almach, or Gamma Andromedae, is a beautiful double star with orange and blue colours in Andromeda. And Epsilon Lyrae is a system of 2 pairs of binary stars in Lyra, so a double star if you will. Of course, another system is Rigel, or Beta Orionis, which is a blue supergiant with 3 faint companions in Orion, although I'm told it's only really possible to resolve the main star and its brightest companion. Gamma Arietis, or Mesarthim, is also a fine double star in Aries. Finally, don't forget to check back next week as we reach the end of the year for our end of year special, where we will be announcing this year's Star of the Year and looking back through the highs and lows of the channel. As we celebrate this holiday season, it's always worth remembering to take a moment to look up at the night sky. The celestial wonders of Christmas include the bizarre tilts of our Earth changing our day and night cycles, interesting occultations of planets Saturn and Mars by the Moon, and indeed even the stars of Spica and Antares as they disappear behind our lunar companion. Looking up to wonderful winter constellations like Orion Gemini, and indeed asterisms like the Winter Hexagon, as well as darker skies in the north, make it easy to spot incredible binary systems. It's easy to forget the mystery and beauty of our universe, but at this time of year where many of us in the northern hemisphere at least are tucked away cosy in our beds, it's worth remembering the fantastic objects we have to keep us warm all year round. Happy stargazing to all of you who follow this channel, and indeed, Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you would like to support the channel further, you could consider joining the channel or alternatively buy me a coffee and I'll link this in the description. Many thanks to those of you who have already done so. Take good care of yourselves and look after your friends and family well, and I'll see you on the next one.